What if the greatest war story ever told wasn't just a myth? What if the fall of Troy, the rage of Achilles, the cunning of Odysseus, the burning city that changed the ancient world was rooted in real people, real kingdoms, and real DNA? For centuries, the Trojan War lived in the space between legend and history, held together by poetry, marble statues, and the echo of heroes who may or may not have existed. But now, for the first time, ancient genomes pulled from bones buried beneath Greek citadels and Anatolian ruins are rewriting everything. Because the truth is far stranger than the myth. The warriors of the Trojan plain were not who classical stories claimed. The Mycenaeans were not as purely Greek as older historians imagined. And the people of Troy carried a genetic signature that links them to civilizations far beyond the Aegean. And when these two worlds collided, history changed. Textbooks teach a simple version. The Mycenaean Greeks, bronze-armored, sea-roaring warriors, sailed east of the coast of Anatolia to wage war against the wealthy city of Troy. A story of honor, betrayal, and the face that launched 1,000 ships. In Homer's telling, these were distinct worlds. Greece on one side, Troy, portrayed as an exotic foreign kingdom, on the other. Two civilizations separated by culture, language, and blood. That's the myth. The reality was more complicated and far more intertwined. Because archaeology reveals that the late Bronze Age Aegean and Anatolian world were part of the same storm system, connected by trade routes, rivalries, marriages, and, as DNA now proves, shared ancestry. The heroes of Homer's epics lived in a world already shaped by migrations that stretch from the Eurasian steppe to the ancient Near East. And that's where the first plot twist appears. The people of Bronze Age Greece and the people of Troy were not opposites. They were cousins. When scientists sequenced the genomes of Mycenaean Greeks and Minoans in 2017, the results shocked historians. These early Greek-speaking peoples carried three major ancestral sources. The first came from early Aegean and Anatolian Neolithic farmers, the deep roots of both regions. Meaning, the ancestors of Greeks and the ancestors of Trojans were once the same people. The second layer was even stranger. Ancestry from the Caucasus and ancient Iran entered the Aegean long before the Trojan War. That same ancestry also appears in Bronze Age Anatolia, including areas associated with Troy. Another genetic overlap. The final component, the one that shaped Greek language and Mycenaean elite culture, came from migrants of the Eurasian steppe, related to the Yamnaya. Mycenaeans carried this ancestry, and Troy did not. This is the first clear divide. Mycenaean DNA shows a steppe element. Ancient Anatolian genomes show almost none. Yet even without it, the DNA of Troy aligns strongly with its neighbors, Hittites, Luwians, and peoples of Western Anatolia. And here comes the twist. Archaeology shows Mycenaean influence inside Troy itself. Pottery, architecture, and cultural borrowings. And the DNA of surrounding Anatolian communities shows Aegean-like traces. Long before war, there was contact, movement, intermarriage. These were not strangers. These were entangled lineages meeting at a breaking point. Before this story goes deeper, this is the kind of truth GenealogyX uncovers every day. Histories buried beneath sand and bone, civilizations rewritten by ancient DNA. If the idea that the Trojan War was built on shared bloodlines surprises you, imagine what's hidden in your own. Subscribe to GenealogyX to explore the mysteries written in every human lineage. To understand the war itself, one must step into the late Bronze Age, a world where identities were fluid, borders thin, and civilizations borrowed from each other endlessly. Mycenaean Greece was not a closed kingdom. It was a network of citadels plugged into an international system. Linear B tablets list Anatolian women in Mycenaean households. Grave goods show obsidian from Milos, tin from Central Asia, gold influenced by Egypt. Troy, too, stood at the intersection of worlds, a gateway between the Aegean and the Hittite Empire. Its elite likely spoke Luwian, a language related to Hittite, but its architecture resembles Aegean designs. Its pottery mixes Greek and Anatolian styles. And here comes another twist. The Trojan War may not have been a Greek versus foreign battle at all, but a struggle within a shared cultural zone. a clash between related elites competing over trade routes, influence, and power. Even Homer hints at this without meaning to. Trojans worship the same gods as Greeks: Apollo, Artemis, Zeus. Their royal names resemble Greek ones. Their social structure mirrors Mycenaean palatial networks. These parallels are not coincidences. They reflect a world built on shared ancestry and shared pressures. And when the late Bronze Age began to collapse, famine, earthquakes, political instability, interconnected powers turned on each other. What the myth remembers as fate was, genetically, a family conflict. Modern genetic studies reveal another startling truth. The Mycenaean profile largely survives among modern Greeks. Yes, later migrations came: Slavs, Romans, Albanians, Anatolians, but the core ancestry of Mycenaean Greece remains in today's Aegean populations. Modern Greeks are direct heirs to the people who fought at Troy. But what about the descendants of Troy? Western Anatolia today holds a layered genetic history: Greek, Roman, Persian, Turkic, Armenian, Circassian. But beneath all of it, the ancient Anatolian profile persists. The people of Troy still have descendants, but scattered across many identities. The legacy of the war survives, not as a divide, but as overlapping genetic threads stretching across the Aegean. And that leads to a deeper question. If Greeks and Trojans were cousins, if their gods were the same, if their bloodlines intertwined for thousands of years, then what is a civilization? What is an enemy? The Trojan War is remembered as a story of division: us versus them, heroes versus villains. But the DNA tells a different story. The greatest conflict of the ancient world was fought by people with shared roots. It wasn't a war between opposites. It was a war between mirrors. And that is perhaps the greatest twist of all. Because if history's most iconic enemies shared origins, ancestors, and migrations, then maybe the borders we imagine between cultures are smaller than we think. Maybe no civilization stands alone. Maybe every conflict is also a story of connection. So here's the question. If you discovered your ancestors stood on both sides of an ancient war, would it change how you see yourself? Would you feel divided or more complete? In the end, the Trojan War wasn't just a clash of heroes or the fall of a city. It was the meeting point of ancient journeys: farmers who crossed the Aegean, migrants from the Caucasus, traders from Anatolia, riders from the steppe. 1,000 lifetimes converged on that moment. What we call Troy or Mycenae was never a single people. It was a tapestry woven across distant lands. And though the walls of Troy have fallen, their story hasn't. It survives, not only in myth, not only in ruins, but in the DNA carried by millions today. Because the Trojan War was never just history. It was a conversation between worlds. And that conversation still speaks. If you've enjoyed exploring how DNA overturns the myths of history, subscribe to GenealogyX. 2 DNA mysteries every day, revealing who we really are.